Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Saints Network podcast. I normally at this stage say your weekly dose of all things Southampton, but I've kind of let the side down for the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago was a planned outage because I was in London watching...
Not proper football.
Watching football, but not football. I'll be honest with you. I'll hold my hands up. I thoroughly enjoyed myself, and I think I can see a lot of what the Premier League is trying to do in trying to catch up with the NFL and NFL franchise type things. I think I can see it.
No one cares.
But the NFL have done it really, really well. I mean, if the Premier League gets to NFL levels, I can see what they're trying to do. Anyway, I was away in London watching NFL, watching my team, the Vikings, play. And then last week was a severe and horrific bout of man flu. So I have to hold my hands up and say, I'm sorry. I will say, I did say to Ash that I would crawl myself in and do the show. And he said, no, you should rest. And then he watched a video that I put out on Monday and went, I'm glad you stayed at home. I wasn't particularly well. Your darling wife's had man flu too as well, apparently, right?
Yeah, but she's had like proper man flu. But unlike her, she goes to work.
Well, I didn't have to. You told me not to. So it's Ash's fault, really. If anything, it's his fault, right? If he knew what he was doing here, he could have run the show without me.
No, because then I would have had to come to you and got keys and stuff and been infected myself.
In the space of the 2 weeks I've not been here, there's been a number of games that have happened. There's been 3 games in the Championship for Saints plus an international break, another international break, and that's just before yet another one comes in 5 games time now.
It's fucking started. It's bloody horrible, isn't it?
So many international breaks, and I don't understand. I don't
care.
No
one cares.
I try to care because I feel like we should care about English football. I don't. I just care about club football. I'd be interested if any of you other guys in chat are not England fans, or even if you are England fans, I'd love to know if your thoughts are the same actually on this one.
I care, but it's boring.
I want to care, and I remember being younger and caring when it was your Beckhams and your Gerrards and your Lampards and Owens and thrashing Germany 5-1, and we used to quite get into English football, and now I just don't really care about international football anymore. I don't know what's changed. I just care about club at the moment.
Boring.
I think it is boring. Yeah, I think you're probably right. So it's been 3 games. We're not going to review all 3 of those games in depth because we would be here for 4 hours and Ash has got work in the morning. So if we can't really do that. But we have had 2 away games and a home game. Now, important thing to note, we have played, remind me, someone Derby, Swansea. Who was the game before Derby?
Sheffield United.
Thank you. Sheffield United, Derby, Swansea. And we have, in fact, throughout that 3-game period, remained unbeaten.
Unbeaten in 4.
Which is in itself relatively impressive.
To a sort of degree.
And I think we've conceded only 2, if I remember rightly, in those 3 games.
That is correct.
Each one of those goals away from home. Now, I think, personally, that has shown a significant amount of improvement when you consider the football that we had got used to in the last season and the fact that we had hemorrhaged goals, we'd given lots of silly goals away. I think there's signs of improvement. So, if you were unaware, which I'm sure you're not at this stage, away at Sheffield United, went 1-0 down, won that game 2-1. With a brace from Ross Stewart, one of which was a bit of a wonder goal.
Yes, very much
was an incredible finish. We then went away half a week later to Derby County. So that was on the Tuesday night, Sheffield United. We then went away to Derby County on the Saturday, 1-0 up, early Armour goal, and then we conceded a bit of a silly one. Was it a silly one? Would you call it a silly one?
Yeah, it was a silly one.
I think it's a silly one because of the way that Manning behaved.
Yeah, no, that wasn't very professional. It's just he just decided that he's going to give the linesman a lot of... And to be fair, it was an awful decision, but...
It was a bad decision.
It
was a bad decision, but it's arguably what let them in to score their goal.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, the home game yesterday, which we're going to focus on for the most part, Sheffield United, because that's the most sort of recent and relevant. We have found that if we're talking about things 3 weeks ago, people don't care. If we're talking about things that happened yesterday, people do care, which was against Swansea City, who were, until 4 years ago, Premier League side. When did they get relegated?
Longer than that, I think.
5 years ago?
5 years ago,
5 years ago, maybe, yeah. Who have now... what I think concerns a lot of Saints fans are now a bang average Championship side because they haven't necessarily managed their relegation particularly well. And that was a 0-0 game. So we have taken 5 points from 3 games. Would you consider that good enough as a Saints fan? Based just on points?
No.
And the teams we played, would you consider that good enough as a Saints fan?
No.
How many points would you have considered good enough in those 3 fixtures?
7.
7, okay. So a draw and 2 wins.
Yeah, I think, though, you need to take it into context, and obviously we'll cover a lot of it in a minute, but there's a lot of there's too much expectation, in my opinion, at the moment in terms of where we're going. Having said that, and obviously we'll cover yesterday's game in a mo, I think yesterday was probably our best performance of the season.
Yeah, I think that if you look at Southampton Football Club and you look at the opposition, I would argue that 7 points is probably a reasonable expectation. I personally believe, and I'm going to upset a lot of Saints fans here, and I've had to really bite my tongue quite a lot on social media with some of the meltdown that's been happening with our fan base. I actually would argue that considering last season, and you've alluded to this previously, considering the in-depth damage that has been done to the ethos of football in this club, having only conceded 2, having 1-1, drawn 2, lost none, I would argue that it's not a bad, terrible, awful place to be right now, despite what some of the fan bases say, and actually that it's a stark improvement. Now, I don't think showed a lot at Sheffield United, but we did grind a result out.
We showed fight. We conceded a stupid goal.
Yep.
We technically, I mean, a lot of people are going to argue this. We potentially should have only got away with a point because obviously their goal disallowed in the last minute. We also missed a penalty.
I do think that goal was correctly disallowed.
I think it was correctly disallowed. We also missed a penalty, but it was nice to see us go behind. We conceded a soft goal. Yeah, fine, no problem. And Matty McManus finally saw a win on the road.
He did.
So yeah, that's
he did. Yeah.
Why is it all at instead of the normal bit? What's YouTube doing?
It's YouTube being funny. Just don't worry about it. Right. It does it sometimes. It has a moment, and it means they're updating something, and they broke it.
Okay.
Don't panic. It did it on my main channel before, and we complained to YouTube, and they put it back. Anyway, and we got a brace from Stuart. A lot of Saints fans at that point have been asking who's going to solve our striker problem, who's going to be our front man, and at that point, group chats that I'm in, social media feeds that I'm on had gone. Finally, we're seeing what we purchased years ago come to fruition now in Ross Stewart. I think he had a sterling performance. I think he played really, really well. I think he looked quite dangerous. Obviously, he got both goals.
Yep.
And that strike for the second goal was an incredible strike. Let's be honest, right? The downside is against Derby, after being 1-0 up, he overstretched for a header, and apparently that's enough to go down injured and be out for months.
Hamstring and tendon injury.
Yeah, I mean, I've done my hamstring, and sometimes they just go. It happens, and they are not a far. You can't necessarily accelerate that recovery. But then we're back to, well, how do we solve this problem? Which I sympathise for Will. He did come out in the press and say that we were doing our best to look after Ross Stewart, and I'm like, I don't know if doing your best is playing him both games starting. I'm not sure that's really protecting.
I don't
someone
think he had
who
a choice. Well, no, he did have a choice. I think anyone. You start that game against Derby and Ross Stewart isn't playing, especially after what he did in midweek. Everyone's going, well, hang on a minute.
No, and I agree with that. I do, but
I think, and we're not obviously going to review both the games. I think the Derby game showed how he is adjusting to the English game himself.
I agree.
Because he took off Cienza, more on him later. He brought on Damien Downs, and we all know that Damien Downs at the moment looks like a little kid running in a flipping war zone. He just looks lost.
He looks like a Make-A-Wish kid, yeah.
Yeah, he does at the moment. And we got bullied.
Derby
bullied us to a point. We were brilliant, and we nearly won it at the end. Tom Fellows nearly got a winner. And then obviously we were all very interested in terms of what he was going to do T-lineup. We knew that Ross Stewart was out injured, and we know we've got to deal with that out. And there's a lot of talks, and I've got some bits in the rumours later. We knew that Jordan Quasha would come back from international, or had come back from international duty and was carrying an injury. So we had two players.
I have found it interesting that he has reverted back to this 5 at the back system, which I don't think was at the start of the season a system that he envisaged him playing. I think he envisaged himself playing a 4-5-1 formation, or something akin to a 4-5-1/4-3-3 style formation, and he's reverted back to this 5 at the back, and I still hate it. But we have looked better. Now, let's get on to yesterday's game. So that's talking about the first 2 games. 1-1, drew 1. I think the performances were average at best. I don't think they were great. I think the performance against Derby showed a bit of a lack of energy, lack of fight. Yesterday, however, turned up feeling a bit more positive. We got the lineup on the way into the ground, as we always do. You read it out. I was mostly okay with it. I questioned Fellows and Azaz both being on the bench. I know Azaz had obviously put some international minutes in the international break, but I feel like Fellows was starting to come into some confidence and settling into the team. Azaz is a question for me at the moment. I was very excited about him as a signing, but I don't feel like he's shown us what we've bought him for yet.
Agreed.
That being said, when we signed Azaz, fully expected us to not sign Leo Cienza, and we obviously did sign Leo Cienza, and he got a start yesterday. So the lineup, I think most people wouldn't argue with it, although with Jordan Kwashi out, all he did was take him out and put in Taylor Howard-Bellis, and I wasn't sure on that, because I think Taylor Howard-Bellis, until the point that he was dropped, had been pretty terrible for us so far this season. I don't think he'd shown us that over a year ago, or just under a year ago, he'd had an England cap. I think he looked quite poor. But he put him in anyway. And we also saw Wellington make a return to the side. Now, interestingly, we also saw Elias Gillert start at right back, supposedly, according to social media, after the club has decided that they're not going to sign him permanently, which I feel like is a bizarre conversation to be having in the middle of October.
When he's on a season-long loan.
Do you believe... I personally don't believe this rumour currently, but...
No, and it's... Obviously, we'll get on to... There are some bits, and I've got that bit in it later, in the show notes later. There's a few bits that have gone on. It's the same as all the people now that think that we're just going to go out and sign an absolute worldie on a free transfer as a striker. I think we need to be realistic with the size of the squads, etc., etc. I just think that... I agree with you yesterday, the lineup was there. If Gillert is starting now, there's no way they've had that conversation, surely, because Mads Rorslev would have started. Then again, Rorslev did play minutes in midweek. Ryan Manning played minutes in midweek.
I personally think Gillert looks like a better player than Mads Rorslev, personally.
I think Gillert is the player that you want when you're at home. Rorslev is the player you want when you're trying to defend a lead.
Interesting.
But you need to score a goal to get
I think Gillert's the player that you want if you're playing 5 at the back.
Yes, agreed.
I think Mads is probably the player you want if you're playing 4 at the back.
Yes, agreed.
That's where I would argue, rather than home away. The midfield, for me personally, the Charles Caspiander central midfield partnership is the one that I would, if we have the choice to, start every game from now on. At the moment, based on what we've seen so far, more on Shay Charles in this particular game as we go through the match, because I feel like his performance was interesting. And then we had Cienza on one side, Armour on the other, and obviously Cam Archer up front. Now, I really want to see Archer do well. I genuinely do. I would love for us to be winning a couple of goals up, for Damien Downs to come on, for one to hit him on the arse and go in, for his confidence to go through the ceiling, and for him to go on an absolute run, and every single person on social media who's chosen to abuse a young American lad starting in this league to get put back in their box. I'd love to see that happen. I really, really would. I don't like the concept of someone getting abused. He does currently look like a kid on a Make-A-Wish
just seeing him warming up in the second half yesterday, he just looked lost and alone, and I just wanted to go down and give him a hug.
Well, quite, yeah. So the lineup was interesting, right? I think for the most part I wasn't upset about it. I think it was probably the right choice.
There were a few shocks. We weren't expecting Wellington to start left back. We knew Kwashi would come back injured. I honestly thought Stevens would go back in. I don't think Will still had any other choice but to start Cameron Archer up front. You don't have anyone else. He couldn't start Damien Downs because he's not.
Well, I mean, he did have a choice. So what he could have done, for sake of argument, just to play devil's advocate here, is he could have just started Armour up front and perhaps played Cienza and Fellows or Cienza and Azaz. Just for sake of argument. I'm not saying he should have. I'm saying he has that as an option. He clearly feels like Armour's better playing off the striker, which I think we mostly know, to be fair. But that 4-5-1 formation that we play, I feel like normally leaves a big gap in the pocket behind the 9. I feel like it just has a gap there that we don't have filled, which is why I prefer the 4-5-1. That being said, what I did watch between Armour, Cienza and Archie yesterday in the first half specifically was a lot more freedom to interchange. So Cienza predominantly set up on the left.
Yes.
Armour predominantly set up on the right. Cam predominantly set up front. But they did drift, and you did find Cienza in the middle pocket. You found Cam coming deep. You found Armour up front in the 9 position. They did kind of swap a bit. And if they're starting to get used to each other in doing that, that could be quite promising. Before we get into it, however, there's something I've forgotten to do, but now I've waited for the numbers to go up a little bit. Before we get into it, please make sure you hit all those magical YouTube buttons for us. There we go. We'll wait until there's more people in the chat.
Am I being schooled on how to be a professional?
No. Oh, God, no. I'm not sure we can call me professional, despite the fact that I do it as a profession. There's a difference. There is a difference.
Okay, all right.
What was interesting was that there was a lot of empty seats yesterday in the stadium.
4,000 odd, yeah.
Predominantly away end. was very sparse, which I don't think I can blame Swansea fans for a midday kickoff in Southampton. It's a long journey, I get it, but there was quite a lot of empty seats. There was actually a fair amount of empty seats in the
chapel,
in the Southampton
in the chapel,
stand.
yeah, to be fair.
And the club does some interesting things, doesn't it?
Before
we get into the game, the club does some interesting things, and I don't understand sometimes what the club tries to do. And it's almost like someone's decided last minute this will be a good idea, and not actually run it by anyone. So one of the most bewildering moments for most of the fans yesterday, you're looking at me weird, but I think you know what I'm talking
exactly what you're on about. Yeah.
One of the most bewildering things for Saints fans yesterday was when they did so obviously the squad gets announced and they're warming up and blah, blah, blah. And then when they come out to start the game, the announcer gives it the big announcement for all the players. And he did just first names. It's quite a European football thing, I think, normally.
But it might have worked if they told us.
Or had started at the start of the season.
Like, everyone was sat there, like, in goal, number 1, Alex. And everyone's like, what? Have you forgotten his surname, mate?
Yeah. What was weird was when they got to number 34. That was it. Because apparently Wellington doesn't have a first name. We all know he's got a first name, and it's Beef.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
But, so you've chosen... What got me was you've chosen to go down this route of shouting out first names. You've not even got one for one of the players.
But you've done it in a game that's kind of flat against Swansea at home.
It was weird, wasn't it? It was weird.
The atmosphere was very flat yesterday, let's be honest. And we all stood there staring at each other, and I saw our Discord was saying it. Everyone was saying it over social media. Just like, what the bloody hell is going on? Like, literally, what is going on?
And I think there was a bit of that throughout the game, sort of, as well. The atmosphere stayed a bit flat, right? Throughout the whole of the game, the atmosphere stayed a bit flat. And I think, I had a season ticket last season. You came to a few of the games with me last season. I went to pretty much all the home games and a chunk of the away ones. And I understand the pain. I do. If I can put a plea out to Saints fans, I understand the pain that everyone went through last season. I lived it. We started the podcast halfway through last season. I was at pretty much every home game. I was at some of the very embarrassing performances. I did a number of away games, including Tottenham, Liverpool, Chelsea, Man United. I get the pain. I understand the pain. However, I think we still need to... And I think part of the problem with the atmosphere and the crowd is we've all got one eye on that last season. I think we have. I think we still do, even if we're trying not to, myself included. I've categorically stated that we need to compartmentalise last season and put it in a box away and try and forget about it. But you just can't when you've had that level of experience. So I would agree with what you said earlier. I think yesterday's performance, which we're about to dive into, was probably the best one we've seen so far this season. The crowd reaction, you would think we played terribly.
But you say it, obviously... hiking off the back of last season, what did I say to you after 75 minutes? I turned around to you and I was like, we're going to lose this.
Exactly.
It's one of our Discord people said it, not one of the members, but one of the people in Discord said this has got 1-0 Swansea written all over it. And everyone was like, yep, we can see it coming in. At the end, obviously we fizzled out and we'll get onto the exact, well, not a breakdown of the game, but in terms of what happened. But Swansea got their corners and every time the ball went to wide, and I just thought to myself, we know exactly what's going to happen. It's going to get whipped in. And let's be honest, because I'll say this right now, Swansea offered nothing yesterday. Essentially nothing.
I thought Swansea looked poor.
Did they look poor, or did we make them look poor?
And okay,
because they moved the ball around nicely.
So I think Swansea looked poor, but I think it's because we made them look poor, genuinely.
Yep.
And if you look at stats, not XG, but if you look at stats, right, we battered them basically. Now, the first 10, 15 minutes was kind of a bit settle. Once it settled. The half an hour, the remaining 25 minutes to half an hour of the first half, I think we looked really, really good. Some lovely moves going on, lots of forward attacking play. And I think that certain players looked pretty special. Cienza looks like he could be an utter gem. He looked phenomenal at points yesterday. And he had their right back on a couple of occasions in his pocket. He looks like he's confident going forward with the ball. He's prepared to take a shot. He's good on free kicks. He's good on set pieces. He's fast. I think, and there's a couple of times as well. He's a little Brazilian chap. He's Brazilian, isn't he?
He's Brazilian, yeah.
He's a little Brazilian chap, and a couple of times he was fighting and winning the ball back. He looks like a rounded player right now.
The game started quite even to a degree, and we had a few chances. Armour and Archer had a few others. I know Armour had a couple of shots early on. Archer had one which he obviously flashed wide past the post. Shea Charles had a shot where he ran and sort of smacked it into the side net, and we thought, okay. And then the game kind of stopped, and it just, for the rest of the first half, it kind of turned into the Leo Cienza show.
It did, and I think most of what we saw yesterday, specifically in that first half, is just showing how the chips are falling for Saints at the moment. It was quite unlucky. The Cienza show was in full swing. He must wonder what he's got to do to give someone else a goal, because he put it on a platter a couple of occasions.
I've watched a lot of them over and over again. So people are going to shout at me for this. So the one where it comes back and Archer puts it over, the ball's, I think Archer does well to get a foot to it because the ball's behind him and over.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't be anywhere near the pitch. I'd be having a heart attack on the halfway line, to be fair.
Yeah, fair.
The one that Armour has, that it's him on the stomach, keeper's had a touch and pushed it over to him. I'm not defending the guys here. I'm just saying that the way we played yesterday, and we've started to come into it, we're still having chances. We did it against Stoke, against Wrexham, and against a few of the teams. At some point, we're going to batter someone.
I think
and
that's
it's going to click, and we're going to batter someone 5 or 6. But it just needs that little bit. And Cienza yesterday was absolutely superb, and he ran at our steam towards the end. We'll get on to Will Steele's substitutions. I thought some of his substitutions were a bit suspect. But it's interesting to know, because obviously he had both chances, both of those. He had a free kick, he hit the post, and then he also set up the header for Nathan Wood at the end, which was a cracking save by the Swansea keeper, to be fair to him. But in the first half, we had 50% possession, Swansea had 50% possession. And we looked open and we looked good, and Swansea didn't have a sniff. In the second half, Swansea sat deeper, and we had 72% possession, and we struggled to create. I think it just shows.
But so that's an interesting thing to talk about. That was a statistic that I'd seen today as well, actually. And we did look worse when we had more possession. And this is where I do want to get on to Will as a manager. I think potentially the starting lineup was the right choice.
Agreed.
And the first half, I think, showed that. And we transitioned quite well on the whole. We defended pretty resolutely. Swansea didn't really have a chance. And
another special word for Nathan Wood, by the way. He was superb again yesterday.
Nathan Wood, I think he's got to be in the defence at least the first name on the team sheet every week at the moment. And I actually think Ronnie Edwards has been playing quite well. He started off yesterday, they're 27, I think it was, had him a couple of occasions, and he repositioned, and then he looked solid again, and to the point where they took their 27 off.
Inusa.
Thank you. And they took him off eventually because he then, Ronnie Edwards was like, right, I'm not winning this game, so I'm going to change the game. And then 27 didn't have a sniff after that. Which
Ronnie Edwards sat back a bit. He gave himself more of space against him, so
I think that shows a maturity, and I was impressed by him. And I do. Poor old Jack Stevens, who I don't despise, by the way, but I think if he's got to be sat on the bench going, I don't see how I get in the team at the moment, because I don't think he does. Because I also think the way that Kwashi's been playing, I think Harwood Bellis is straight back out and Kwashi comes in. That being said, I actually thought Taylor was pretty good yesterday.
Just on him, and I think it's the same with Flynn Downs as well, because obviously Flynn Downs hasn't got on. It'll be the same with Jack Stevens, but especially Taylor, Harwood Bellis and Flynn Downs, people who we know have almost not publicly, but wanted potential moves away to the Premier League, etc. There would have been a point, or there should have been a point, surely, in the last week or two where they've been sat on the bench and they're going, I'm sat on the bench for Championship Southampton and I can't get a look in because I'm not playing good enough. So, if Taylor Harwood Bellis comes in and plays like he did yesterday and they play as a 3, absolutely fine. Because Kwashi has a mistake in him like he did against Sheffield United. He can go into some sort of half-assed challenges.
But so does Taylor.
And that's the point, isn't it? But he's the one that's got the experience. Now, he played very well yesterday, and I thought he had to deal with a lot of... Wellington played okay, but he looked rusty, and he had to deal with a lot of issues that Wellington created. Wellington looked great going forward, but defensively he looked rusty.
Yeah.
And I think that we don't need to talk about the defence as such. I thought Gillette also played very well. There's a couple of very unorthodox challenges that he made, but the defence looked solid. The
reason why I mentioned Taylor and Wood and Edwards is because I think they played quite well. I think Wood was outstanding. I think Edwards started off a bit shaky against the man you just spoke about, and then settled. I think Taylor looked really good. And actually, Taylor played some balls. He played some passes that we know he can play, which is definitely an attribute that you do want to have. If you're struggling in the middle of the park and you've got a centre-back that can unlock a pass to the forwards, That's great.
He
right?
plays, and you're gonna love this. He plays that when he plays that ball. He's almost like the NFL quarterback, feeding it through. There you go.
Kinda, yeah.
That's what he's good at.
However, the reason why I mentioned the 3 is because I think in the second half, what Swansea did is Swansea they transitioned. They sat 5 at the back when we had the ball, 4 at the back when we didn't have the ball.
Yeah.
They then kind of changed the second half and they just sat at the back. They sat. You're right. They sat deeper. So for me, looking at the manager, and especially looking at some of the discourse that currently exists on social media about the manager, which I will talk about in more depth, this is where I have a criticism of Will. And I say this is where I have a criticism of Will because my personal... I'm going to put this on the table now, guys, and if you're listening or watching, I'd love to know what you guys think about this as well. But my personal opinion on Will at the moment is I think he's a manager that we should stick with. I like the way he talks. I like the things he's saying. I like the fact that he's adapting. I like the fact that he's learning. I personally, at the moment, and he'll be judged at the end of the season, hopefully, I think for a multitude of reasons we should stick with him. I also think as a club, if we get rid of him in the next 2 months, of course, who's available then becomes the problem, but who's looking at that job going, that's an attractive position? Who's currently looking at Nottingham Forest and going, definitely want that job?
Roberto Mancini or Sean Dyche. Definitely Sean Dyche.
But I mean, they will have in their mind, Ange was in for 39 days.
And I think for those who weren't at the game, for those who were at the game might not have seen it as well, there's a few times, especially in the second half, and I get where you're going. The biggest criticism of Will Still yesterday was A, his changes, and B, was the fact that we stuck to 5 at the back.
Right, so this is where I'm going. My big criticism is, when they sat deeper and we had 78% possession, I think one of the reasons why we struggled is because we're playing 5 at the back. At which point, you whip it, they're sitting deep, put a centre-back off, put an Azaz on, in addition to the rest of the attacking players you already have. Start putting numbers in that midfield, right? I watched the second half of the United-Liverpool game today, right? Now, although this perhaps isn't the greatest example because of the result, when Liverpool were 1-0 down, they basically went to a 4-2-4 formation. And Arne Slot went, we can't lose this at home. They did, but what he did is he went, I'm going to put as many people up in the front. And when Liverpool were going forward, they had 7 people attacking the ball at one point in the United box. And I think that if a team like Swansea, who's offered no reason for us to panic at the back at all, and then have decided to sit deeper, I think it is fair to criticise the manager for not going, bring a defender off and put on an Azaz or a Fellows or a Robinson in addition to your Leo and your Armour and your Archer.
I get that. I just think that yesterday, potentially, it was on his mind. I said we obviously had Damien Downs sat out there looking like a lost puppy. I think he was too scared to bring him on. I think...
But he's not a player to brought on.
At the point as well, and I think this is worth mentioning, we dominated Swansea first half.
We did.
Not in possession, but we did. On the sort of 75th minute mark after, and we'll get onto this, after Casper Yander had hit the post after it was harder to miss, Swansea started having more of the ball, and I think he was worried that if we did change that shape, potentially we were
give something away.
We were potentially there to give him away. I think he was thinking to himself, if we're going to win this, we have to win this as we go.
Although I've criticised Will Still at that particular moment, talking about that, what I will say is we ended the game with more possession. Possession doesn't win games, granted. Goals win games. So let's talk about goals. We obviously scored none. We're aware of that. 21 shots on goal. I think 8 on target or
21 shots on goal, 8 on target, only 58% possession.
So if we go, right, so let's think about this, right? Let's be realistic, Saints fans, for a moment, right? 58% possession. Did you say 58, 57? 58% possession. 21 shots on goal, 8 on target.
Yeah.
Can you, at that point, really blame the manager? How many shots did Swansea have on goal?
6.
On target?
1.
Right. So
and that was the half-assed pickup.
Can you blame the manager at that point for not winning that game? Because if you look at those numbers, if you look at that in a nutshell, if you think about that first half performance specifically, he's done everything he can. All the players have got to do, all his players have got to do, is put the ball in the fucking net. Because if one of those 8 chances on target out of 21 shots goes in the net, we win the game.
Look, we had all those chances. We came out and we had a few half chances, and then there was a bit of mixture, etc., etc. And then obviously Fellows had his moment forward, and Yander. how. I just.
So do you know what? I can forgive the first miss. So it was a bit of a half shot from Armour, but it was a shot, and I say this all the time. Sometimes when nothing's on, put your foot through it, because you might blaze it over the bar. It might go wide. It might take the keeper by surprise, and he might parry it into a dangerous position. You've created something when nothing else is on, just having a go, and sometimes it might just fucking fly in the corner as well, right? Armour took what was a half-arsed shot. He didn't really have anything else on from where he was. It wasn't the greatest shot in the world, but the keeper dropped to it and he pushed it in a dangerous position. He did exactly what I've said. Yeah. You put it in the pinball machine, and that's what he did. He put it in the pinball machine, and the first player to react, and this is a criticism we have had for a lot of this season, actually, we've been slow to react. The first player to react, Casper Yander, brilliant, good, I want that, and he comes in and he hits the post. That happens. It's gutting. He should have put it in the net. It's an open goal, essentially. He should have put it in the net. But I can forgive that because it's a follow up. It's a quick decision. Oh, I haven't quite got it right. What I can't forgive is how he tried to follow up the second part of that. Put your left leg through it, mate, and that's in the back of the net. Why he's tried to hook it round with his right foot at that point?
He wouldn't have got it with his left either. I saw it. He wouldn't have got it with his left. And I think that whole series of events there just epitomises us, because afterwards, and I think we've talked about it as well, there were some boos at the full-time whistle. And I think that when you
I disagree with those, by the way.
We'll get onto that in a minute. But when you look at the last 20 minutes, the 70th, I think it was 70th or 71st minute was when Shea Charles had that moment where he's made this great run into the box and he's then sort of tried to place it.
I don't think he even placed it, Ash. It wasn't a play. He didn't. It was a back pass.
It was a back pass to the keeper, and you want to put his laces through it, and then
that needs to be maximum power of your right boot across the goal mouth.
Just anything.
Either nestles in the bottom corner, or maybe one of the other players follows it in.
And when we've got after that, and this is where I think the boos mainly came from. The last 15 minutes, the game fizzled out, and because we were playing the three at the back, we had 7 minutes of stoppage time. In the first 4 minutes, they were just passing it amongst themselves at the back.
That is frustrating.
There were times when I saw the ball go out for a goal kick and Alex McCarthy pick it up, and Nathan Wood stood there, and Will Steele was going absolutely mental on the touchline, like get it moving faster.
And it was frustrating to watch. But if I may, I'm trying to play devil's advocate here as well.
You're wrong.
You're a Saints player in that particular circumstance.
I'm injured.
You think about what's happened last season and the start of this season. All right, we are frustrated as fans. Get it forward, attack their goal, get that last minute winner. What happens if they do that and a gap opens up because they've done that? And then Swansea nick the last minute winner.
And this is why I don't think...
Where do the boos come from then?
This is why I don't think he changed it. So this is why I think he kept to the five at the back, because it's that old adage in football. And Will still said in his interview afterwards, he did a great analogy. So I must have run over a cat at some point.
Yeah, well,
if you can't win, and looking at the chances that we missed yesterday, clearly something was against us, the gods or whatever. If you can't win, make sure you don't lose.
And I think that what we saw in the last 10, 20 minutes is a frightened team.
Agreed.
I think they look scared. And I think they look scared of what's going to happen if we actually lose this. And let's be honest, we had boos for a 0-0 draw for what I do genuinely think was probably our best performance so far this season. I think, unfortunately, what happened was, first game of the season, where he managed to turn it around against Wrexham and win 2-1, I think Saints fans, to some degree, I'll hold my hands up, myself included, we're like, HMS piss the league. This is going to be great this season. I was one of them. I was like, and I think what really struck home for me was something that you said a few shows ago. And I think it's not something that I had really thought. I looked at new coaching staff coming in. I looked at Will coming in. I looked at the signings that were happening. I looked at us dropping down a league. And I thought, here we go. We're going to have some fun this season. And I think that what you said a few shows ago, it really resonated with me. And it's made me sit back and think about it a little bit and go, actually, perhaps I was wrong. And if we look at the fact that the man has also just been sacked from Rangers, I think he's done some lasting damage. And there was a clip that surfaced on social media. I saw it personally on Twitter. It's been on Facebook. I've seen it on Facebook. But there's a clip that surfaced on social media where Sky Sports did a bit at Staplewood, and they're talking to Will Steele during drills they were running.
Yes.
Right? He had talked about a scenario where a player had a ball and he'd lost the ball and there was a ball out wide, and he'd said something to him along the lines of, why didn't you play it out wide? He was open. They were going this way, but he was open, and the player responded with something along the lines of, "I didn't know I was allowed to." That's terrifying. Terrifying. Because that's deep-rooted, really. So, I think, and this is why I personally think we don't look to get rid of Will straight away. Garsty's put in chat, and I this is 100% true as far as I'm concerned. Changing the manager isn't the magic fix a lot of fans think it is, and unless you're losing every game, there's no need to panic. And I would 100% agree with that. Fans nowadays default to sack the manager, get rid of the board. Sack the manager, get rid of the board.
We've only lost twice. Okay,
Right.
we've drawn a fair few. We've only lost twice.
We've
We've won 2, drawn 6, lost 2. And the 6 that we've drawn, the majority of them we know we should have won. So I think that look, if we set ourselves in 3-4 months' time, and we're sat in February, March, April time, and we're sat here going flipping out, we're still 16th in the table, Pompey is still above us. What's going on? We're now losing more games than we're winning. Then there's a conversation.
I think if we'd have 6 of those draws, if we'd have won 3 of those draws out of the 6, I think yesterday in that second half he changes and goes more attacking.
Agreed.
I think that the reason why, and I would like to have seen him go more attacking because I don't think Swansea offered anything. But I honestly believe that the reason why he didn't go attacking is because he is also afraid of that loss at the moment.
No, I completely agree.
And so I think that we're not panicking yet. We're currently undefeated for a number of games. 8? No. Is it 4?
4 games.
More than that.
Nope.
In the league?
Yep. 4 games.
When did we lose last?
Hull.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Our last show.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Before you went on a jolly to London and pretended to be sick. Yeah.
NFL was great. But if we look at yesterday's game, my personal opinion is that the substitutions weren't necessarily the right ones. I don't think they were attacking enough. I think it was a lot of like for like, and I didn't like that necessarily. If it isn't working, change it up. But although it wasn't working necessarily going forward, it was working in defence at least. And perhaps
that's been our problem for years. And not just now. That was a problem in the last championship season. And do you know what? If the biggest issue that we have is we're not putting the ball in the net as opposed to conceding constantly, then that's at least a better position to be in. Then we can maybe score some goals, but we're conceding a shitload. There's
a couple of points I want to talk about as well. This game yesterday, there was a moment in which Cienza got smashed on the halfway line by a challenge from, I think it was their 5 who'd already been booked. Remember the challenge? Was it 5?
Oh God! 6? The 5 was it? The 5.
One of their centre backs.
No, it was Cabango or something like that. Yes, I remember it now. So
he's already on a booking. He's already got a yellow card.
Yes.
I don't think we got a single booking yesterday. Actually,
we got one.
Did we?
No, we didn't.
No, I didn't think we got a single booking yesterday. You've put here. This is an interesting one. You put here. Cienza halfway challenge. Ref bottled it?
But
do you think he bottled it? I think if that was the other way round, and it was Wood or Edwards, and he sent him off at that point, we'd have felt pretty hard done by.
I think with it, and the reason why I put the question in there is, on the whole, the referee had a good game yesterday.
I agree.
There was a moment, end of first half, start of second half, where he got really whistle happy, but I'm not convinced too much about that. The reason why I questioned it, and I said this to our dad on the way home, if that is any other player that's gone in for that challenge and they're not on a yellow card, he books them.
That's fair. I agree with that.
Maybe Cienza is already starting to have a bit of a what's the word? Reputation for going down a bit easy. We know professional footballers do. But I just think, and I've seen it a few times, I went home and watched it back. It's the first thing I did when I got home after yesterday. My wife loved me. I got home and I put it on and I wanted to see that specific challenge. It is a yellow. Look, I'm not criticising the referee here, and I don't think necessarily the outcome of the game would have been, because obviously our dad gave that old cliche, we're rubbish against 10 men. All right, Nathan Jones, calm down. And
fair.
I personally think it was a second yellow card. Having said that, again, I don't think it necessarily would have altered the outcome of the game, because although Swansea came into it a bit in the second half, when I say came into it, they kept ball a little bit.
I saw that comment on the show notes, and I was a little bit like, okay, I can see why that's gone in there, because I actually think that from for the most part, a couple of dodgy decisions, a throw in that was given by the ref, which was probably wrong, and the linesman just stood there looking at him. I'm like, you're the linesman.
Nothing else, and I do wonder in these moments, you get some referees, and I'm not saying, I'm not saying he would have been right to send him off wrong. I personally think it is a second yellow card, but then obviously I am looking at it as a Saints fan's view. he had nothing to do yesterday. Realistically, there was no big challenges. There was no penalty decisions.
I think it was refreshing. I don't want to make a thing about it because I think it was refreshing for me personally to have. So, like I said, I looked at the show notes and was surprised. The reason why I say that, it was nice to come away from a game and not be talking about the officials. You know, like that wasn't, I don't think, a win or lose determining decision necessarily. Because I don't know if we would have broke them down. Like I think honestly, you could have doubled the size of the goal yesterday. We might not have scored.
I could have played for 90 minutes after Swans went off, and we still.
I'm not suggesting that a lack of a red card there would mean that Saints would win the game. I from one occasion felt like I was happy to have walked away from that game not talking about official decisions, because a ref giving a throw in that a linesman didn't give is frustrating. But it's not game defining. It doesn't make a huge difference, really, unless they were to score from it, of course. But, you know, I actually thought it was quite nice not to come away talking about refs. But let's talk about players.
The only person that was annoyed about the referee was my son, so.
Let's talk about players, right?
Yes.
Central midfield. Let's talk about those two first. I want to do a little bit about Casper Yander, Shea Charles. I said to you at the start of the show, I think they should be our central midfield pairing from now on. How are you feeling about them? I think they're starting to gel. I think Yander, I saw a post on Twitter yesterday from a Saints fan who said, let's not pretend that Yander isn't an upgrade on Matty Fernandez. People legitimately talk about him the same.
No, they're two different players.
They are two different players, and we're in two different leagues. But what I'm saying is, he's starting to grow into that role to the degree that some people are talking about him in the same breath as Matty. They are different players. I agree with you. What I'm saying is, fans are impressed by his performance, and I think Yander is one of the first names for me on the team sheet.
I think Yander is so, what's the word? So composed in the role that he plays. He doesn't seem to break a sweat. And he comes, one of them, and obviously we've mentioned the fact that Yander missed the City yesterday. Shea Charles missed a couple of chances, one of which he should have done better with. One of them is going to have to start adding goals to their game. And I think it's, for the both of them, it's very good to have Flynn Downs sat on the bench, because I also think Flynn Downs is someone that can come on and
do a job.
He will want to fight his place back in. I'll be honest, I think in the last couple of games that we played, I'm surprised we haven't seen Flynn Downs come on. I actually thought Flynn Downs potentially could have come on sort of 75th minute yesterday and maybe given our midfield a bit of energy.
Yeah.
Because I think Shea Charles started to look leggy. Shea Charles has been on international duty and played 180 odd minutes.
That's the next one I want to talk about, Shea Charles. I thought he had a brilliant first half, and I think so far this season he's been one of our best players. But I do think that in the second half he dropped off quite hard.
And that's the only reason why I think Flynn Downs potentially could have been an option. But again, we're only 10 games in. Will still is starting to learn the squad. He's starting to learn the players. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Flynn Downs can't cook chicken, so he can't be. He probably doesn't want to put reliability into someone like Flynn Downs because he'd had to drop him twice because he's been ill.
Yeah,
and he wants that. He clearly is getting a core spine of the team ready, and it's worth mentioning for the third show, we're not talking about the goalkeeper.
No, we're not, because McCarthy's been solid.
McCarthy's been decent enough.
But he's not being asked to muck about with it at the back either. He is being told that if you need to put your foot through it, you can put your foot through it. And I wonder also with Downs, if you think about what happened last season under, I think it was when Juric came in, Downs, for me, there's a question over his personality. Honestly, and if Shea Charles and Yander are going to be consummate professionals, and he's going to be a temper tantrum, I'm sick because I don't feel like it today.
We can say this. I think that, I've just seen Alan's comment now about Robinson being given a good go. I think we looked at it yesterday with the bench. We had Ryan Fraser, we had Tom Fellows, we had Jay Robinson. Robinson he's a youngster. We want to manage his minutes. We don't want to put too much on him too soon. I think he started the season very well. He's also, again, people also have to remember as a youngster, he's also been away on international duty.
Yeah. And
so there's a few of them there. I'm surprised we didn't see Ryan Manning yesterday. We saw Ryan Fraser instead of Ryan Manning. I thought that was a bit of an odd one. But again, Ryan Manning's been away on international duty.
Protecting Robinson is a good move, though.
I think we know we're going to see at least one change on Tuesday. I think that it'll be interesting to see how he goes down, because I said before the game I would have started Finn Azaz up front instead of Cameron Archer. But then Finn Azaz came on and looked like he was lost.
The thing is, Finn Azaz came on and tried to play the 10 position when he wanted him in the right attacking midfield position.
Which just didn't work.
Exactly. Yeah, and what happened was we would knock it across the centre-backs, and this is where it got frustrating. We'd knock it across the centre-backs to the right-back, who'd look up, and there was no one in front of him. So we'd have to kind of come back in. And I know people get annoyed when we come back across the back, but if there's nothing in front of you, you can't really play it forward.
But this is just the theme of the teams that have come down struggling to transition.
Yeah.
Leicester only sit fourth. Ipswich are 12th, and they're not.
I mean, they're both doing better than we are.
Granted, but they didn't have as bad a psychological damage as we had last year.
Agree. Anyway, we were talking about Shea Charles. I do think personally he's been one of our best players this season. I think that for most of the man of the match polls, he's probably been in contention.
I think he's been standout.
And there is rumours coming out that we've now talking a new contract with him. I think that's the thing that we all think needs to get done.
Yes, 100%.
How long has he got left? Is it a year?
I think so. I think a year, 18 months. Like that.
I think this is one of those things that if we don't tie him in and he goes for a free, that would upset me.
There's a few, and we'll have this conversation obviously nearer the time, and we'll do a transfer deadline day in January, for example, because we did one and everyone loved it, so we'll do another one maybe.
Yeah.
Depends how well we do.
Possibly.
I know Ross Stewart's contract's up at the end of the season, and I know that there's going to be a lot of conversation, a lot of debate about that. But if you take the main core of the squad that we've got now, and Will still stays, and we have a half-decent season, and everyone sticks to the faith, and you keep the main core players, and you'll lose a few, and then suddenly you add a couple of people who can put the ball in the back of the net, suddenly we're unstoppable.
Chat, we are a self-funded podcast at the moment. We run this at a loss. So if you want to support us, there's a couple of ways you can do that. First of all, you can become a member. If you're in the YouTube live chat right now, you see people with green names. That's because they're members of the channel. Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. You can become a member yourself. You do get extra access to extra sections in Discord. If you don't want that, but you do want to come in Discord and join the conversation anyway, you can check out the link in the description below. Equally, there's a little magical button with a $ sign on it on YouTube, which allows you to do a thing that they call a super chat. I don't like the name, but YouTube's an American company, and they come up with annoying names. If you do click on Super Chat, however, you can spend a couple of quid, £2, £4, £5, whatever, and you can put a message in a big, what we call a Super Chat, what I call a postcard, because it's nicer than calling it a Super Chat. You can type that out, you can send that in. I want you to think about what you really think currently of Will Steele. Are you on the fence about him? Do you think we should probably be looking at getting rid of him? Because I've seen that from a lot of Saints fans. Or should we just stick it out till the end of the season? Stick that on a Super Chat. The bonus of putting on a Super Chat is A, you financially support us, and B, at the end of the show, we will read through every single one and talk about your point. So there's a couple of ways you can support the show if you want to. Obviously, we agree that we should tie Shea Charles in. Gillette, we talked about this a bit earlier. We won't dwell on it for too long. Rumours that we've decided we're not going to keep him, and then we start him yesterday.
Yeah,
I think the rumours are nonsense.
I think it's 6-1 and the others, and six half one and half.
6 to 1 and half a dozen to the other.
Got my tongue twisted. It's late, nearly bedtime.
Your tongue's twisted. You've got two tongues.
Apparently,
lucky wife.
God, crikey. Yeah, she'd be so lucky, crikey. Yeah. No, I had this discussion with a few people in Discord again yesterday because see, we are quite active, and I'm quite active in the Discord. I don't think it's really doesn't make sense. It's
not
all
at this
gone
stage.
very quiet as well, and I just don't. Look, we're 10 games in.
I also don't think it came from a particularly reliable source. Either,
no, we've got another 36 games to go, and we haven't seen much of the rumours. So we're going into Bristol on Tuesday. I mean, Cienza needs to start. He was clearly the man of the match at the stadium yesterday. He was a man of the match in our members poll in Discord yesterday. I mean, let's be honest, who else was picking somebody else? Who was picking anybody else? Let's be honest, he was absolutely fantastic. I just think that those sort of discussions don't help, because before yesterday, he had hardly played. So if that came out and said, he's hardly played, fine, but he was superb yesterday.
And I think he was great against Liverpool.
And he picked up an injury, so he's probably not going to play on Tuesday, but he was superb.
He was. And like I said, he was good against Liverpool as well. So,
and he picked up, and it's worth mentioning as well, just quickly before we move on to the rest of it, he picked up so many good positions, and there was a few times when you could see they were really trying to work that. And I think the way he looks, he potentially could also chip in for 3 or 4 goals this year as well.
I've seen little, so pinch of salt with this, but from what I've seen, he'd be a name that I'd be looking to sign. Not looking to send back, looking to sign.
100%, but I also think there's a piece where we need to see, can he play in the back 4?
Yeah, I agree.
Because I think that at the moment, Will Steele is doing the back 5 because he's worried about losing games rather than winning games, but he's going to have to make that flip soon.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to start winning games, because even though I am not on the board of sack Will Steele, I do not want to be finishing this season 16th, 17th. I at least want to be going up and trying to challenge for at least a playoff position.
Yeah, okay. Talking about players on the roster and injuries, like he did with Gillette right there, this is all nicely segueing, isn't it? Ross Stewart did pick up an injury against Derby. He's going to be out for a considerable amount of time.
I feel so sorry for him. I really do, because he is everyone around the football club tells us what the model professionally is. He was...
But what's going on though, Ash? Because I do feel sorry for him, but for an individual to get this many injuries, it seems to me that something's not right somewhere. Whether it's rehab, diet, exercise, I don't know.
Of course, something's not right, and we'll have a bit of a discussion now. His contract's up at the end of the season. I don't think they'll renew it, purely and simply because you need that reliability and you can free up a position for someone else. I think that in the summer, it was well documented and everyone knew that we needed a number 9, and they gambled and went and brought Damien Downs in, who was unproven. And I think the reason they did that is because they had Alan Armstrong, Cameron Archer and Ross Stewart, and everyone thought, yeah, they'll chip in goals. And Ross Stewart could come back in the new year, bang 10 goals in, and everyone would be like, yeah, fine. But players have that. Marion Pars was the other one, wasn't it? You know, he was absolutely fantastic, but he just got injured and then injured and then injured and then injured. Michael Svensson the same. He had Michael Svensson did his ACL and then barely played because he got injured.
My preference at the moment, honestly, is I would just play Armour up front and I would play Cienza and Fellows behind him. Honestly, he look, even this season so far, he has proven he can put the ball in the net
from a wide position.
Right, but he can find the net. Currently, it doesn't matter what position it comes from. No one's finding the net.
But he's found it 3 times. From a wide position, and Archer's found it twice from the central position.
Fair.
And this is going to be where we have it. So for someone like Cameron Archer, I've said this already this season, I'm going to say it right now, Ross Stewart's injury has to be the opportunity. I don't think he was particularly bad yesterday. He fought really hard. He worked really hard. There are a few opportunities that he potentially could have done better with.
He looked better yesterday than on occasions where he's come on as a substitute. Because I've noticed with Cam is when he comes on as a substitute, he looks lost.
Yes.
And he looks like he doesn't really know how he's supposed to fit in.
Yes.
When he started yesterday, his work rate was decent. He was dropping deep. He was in plays. He was keeping hold of possession. He was playing some nice passes. I actually think he looked good yesterday. I do.
I think it'll be interesting, and we'll get onto the previews later on, but I think it'll be interesting to see how we play against Bristol City because they're sitting quite high up in the table at the moment. Their tails are up, so they'll probably want to attack us, and that'll shoot us down to the ground.
Yeah, okay. And the last thing for the club specifically, Southampton Football Club, is they've opened up level 1, which has come under a lot of criticism, but I think this is a positive move by the club.
It's just all about trying to build revenue.
Revenue streams that feed the football. This is what people seem to struggle to realise. With the way that PSR is and the way that FFP is, any additional revenue stream that club can generate will feed the football team. It just will. And if you've got dead space that's being used for nothing else, investing in something that could generate additional revenue is a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, some of the other content creators were invited, not us. Silence. To go and have a look at it. And there's a few people. It looks decent enough. My son wants to have his birthday party there now.
Brilliant. I think that's good though, right?
It's a way of, like you said, it's just another way. It's the same as the Dell pub's gone down really, really well. The new Northern fan zone and people. I know we've criticised some of the ways like the new ordering and stuff system this year, and they'll change it.
The new ordering system is shit.
Yeah, but they'll change it as they see fit. I just think that they're trying different things to try and create revenue within, and it's hard because they're trying to ask us as fans to spend more and more money, despite the fact we've gone from being in the Premier League to 16th in the Championship. And there's 4,000 people missing yesterday. And I know that a fair chunk of them were Swansea fans, but there was gaps in the
there was
gaps in the Kingsland, there was gaps in the Itchen, there was gaps in the Chapel, there was gaps in the Northern.
Although I will argue that I'm very torn on this one. On the one side, I get very annoyed by it because if we'd have won every game so far this season, you can guarantee that for Saints seats at least, there wouldn't be gaps yesterday.
Agreed.
Because we've got far too many Glory fans. On the flip side, I have always said, if you're not happy with something and you don't like something, the best way to vote is with your wallet.
First point, yes, but that's just football fans in general. And then, look, we know what happens, but we know regardless what it is, and a lot of the guys watching will know, we know that come hail or high water, we were there as much as possible every game.
I know.
To a degree. But
I do say, if you're not happy with the way things are, you vote with your wallet. And that's how any company nowadays, the way that you make them stand up and take note is by just not buying the product, not going to that's how you do it.
I've got to jump in. We see the super chats coming in, guys, and we absolutely love you all, and we will respond to them. But Jamie's just asked thoughts on the Revo playing up top in the middle of a 3.
I mean, I wouldn't be against seeing Aribo around the squad in general. I know he didn't have a pre-season, but I am not a Aribo critic. I think he's one of those players on occasions last season in the Premier League put a shift in. He's always put a shift in. Do I think he could play up top?
He did it for Rangers.
It's no more wild than playing Vin as up top as a striker. To be fair, he's a big target man. He's a big powerhouse. He's quite a quick player. He's got an engine in him. He scores goals.
Sorry, carry on. That's a really good thought actually, and I'm gonna look at that. But that's
it's interesting. It's a concept.
An interesting one.
If we look at the thank you, Jamie, by the way, and we will get to. I promise you, we'll read all those super chats out. And we've got a few of those now, so let's go for 125 members. That'd be great. In the wider Championship and football in general, we talked about it briefly earlier. Nottingham Forest.
Oh my God.
Nuno does, I think, a decent job for their season on the whole. Gets sacked. They then bring in Ange Postecoglou, and we disagree on this. I think he had a shocking season at Tottenham. Now, before you jump down my throat, I know he won a European Cup, but he finished 17th in the Premier League, right? Which means he probably didn't hit the Premier League target. And the win in the European Cup was against a poor Man United side in one of the worst games of football I've ever watched in my life, right? That was winning a cup by default rather than deserving it.
Okay, yeah,
you know, yeah. He then gets the job because Nottingham Forest claim they want to transition into a more attractive attacking football style. Not sure you can call what we saw Tottenham play last season attractive, but hey, yet again, managers failing up as far as I'm concerned. He then gets the job, and in the new Premier League record, 39 days later gets the sack.
It was always destined to fail.
Yeah, but 39 days
always
later?
Destined to fail.
If they'd have waited for his second season, he could have at least won the championship.
It was a stupid decision to announce him anyway. They've gone from a style of sitting on it and attacking, counter-attacking football under Nuno with Morgan Gibbs-White and obviously not there, but Anthony Elanga was there last year and Hudson-Odoi and
Matt smashes it on the. This is my point about Ange Postecoglou as well, and I think I agree with Matt completely. If Leicester, Ipswich, and Saints weren't so bad last season, the teams that came up, Tottenham are in the relegation zone. I think I do. I genuinely believe it. They were shocking, Ash. The only thing that saved Ange from relegation last season was that the three teams came up and completely balked their seasons.
Yeah, but then the other argument would be is as they were getting closer to the Europa League final, if there'd have been more in it in the Premier League, they probably would have played.
Well, and you know, he said this in interviews with at Forest. People criticise me at Tottenham for coming 17th, but if you look at my lineups, you'll realise where my priority is. I'm sorry, a team like Tottenham and the stadium they've got, and the money they've got, the money that Daniel Levy put in, it's not good enough.
No, it's not good enough. And obviously, moving back to the Forest piece, it just absolutely shocks me to a massive degree that, and this is what football clubs do. And I get, you know, I can't even remember. It's like I can't even remember the bloody fat guy name who owns them. Mid-season, you've gone, I want to change playing styles.
Well, yeah,
pre-season, yeah, fine. Mid-season, are you stupid? Now Nuno's gone to West Ham, and Forest have still got European football to play, and they're just about to bring in Sean Dyche. I love Sean Dyche. I'm a massive Sean Dyche fan. Right, you've gone from Nuno, who plays a defensive counter-attacking style. You then want Ange, who plays an attacking style and
with a high block,
a higher line. His high line at flipping the City ground is in Meadow Lane. That's how flipping high it is. Marianne Stone, that's what it is. And they've gone to a manager who plays low block with a counter-attacking football. Sean Dyche's football is effective, but it's fucking boring. So what is he playing at?
Oh, the amount of Saints fans that say, we want Sean Dyche, and you'd whinge that the football's boring.
I would have loved Sean Dyche before they announced Will Still, and I still would now. And I've always been a Sean Dyche advocate. But how do you go from a chairman who has said, I really want to play really attacking football. They're in Europe and they want to play attacking football and they've announced Sean Dyche. Do me a favour.
It's not a great...
Do me a favour.
It might stabilise. Let's talk about Nuno for a brief moment. You haven't put on him, actually, but I want to talk about Nuno. Nuno's gone to Forest.
West Ham,
after leaving Forest, obviously. JWP instantly dropped.
Yep.
And has been seen in the area, down here.
Oh, he lives down here. So does his family.
So he's straight back down here. So there's lots of rumours now about JWP coming back to Saints on loan in January.
Yep.
But, and I'm a JWP fan.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
Yander, Charles, Downs to a point. Does JWP get in the starting
Yes.
lineup at the moment? Does he?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
In place of? This is my problem. In place of who?
Okay, all right, let me rephrase that. Does he get in the starting lineup at the moment? No. I would bite your hands off for him back in the squad. And I know we're going to talk about ex-players coming back, etc. I don't see him getting into another Premier League team.
Agree.
I think he'll have to take that drop down. And I think at the end of this season, you are potentially looking at moving on someone like Flynn Downs, and then he comes back in as he's getting older and he fits in to be that squad player.
I think I said this yesterday categorically after half time. I said that even Lallana, if they'd have given us one more season playing, could have done a job for us this season. Genuinely,
The big problem with it is the size of the squad. We've got
no,
so
of
many
course,
bloody players.
absolutely. And Jada, I really hate the conversation about bringing ex-players back. I really hate it. I don't like it at all. And 99 times out of 100, I will say no, I'm not interested. I think Lallana could have done a job on the pitch this season, actually, as a calming voice. His talent and skill is still there.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen it whilst he's on the pitch doing warm-ups, etc. Although I hate that conversation 99 times out of 100, JWP is a player that I would take back, who I would have in around the squad, who I'd probably make the captain again,
100%,
genuinely.
without shadow of a doubt.
But I do also struggle to see where we start him right now.
What I will say is James Ward-Prowse has also been mentioned in the press recently yesterday, and I haven't put this in the show notes, so I'm going to mention it very quickly. He's been mentioned in the press by Nathan Jones, who has compared and told us and the press
I've seen this.
that James Bree is a better dead ball taker than James Ward-Prowse.
I mean, we know that Nathan Jones is a walking drunk, so let's not give that any more time. Russell Martin also got I find it. You know what? I took a break from football for a while, and I came back in recent years, and this is now becoming pretty commonplace, right? So the season kicks off by mid-October. We're already talking about managers getting the sack, or every season at the moment, pretty much.
But Russell Martin should have gone weeks ago.
Oh,
Months ago.
do you know what? Right,
He was the wrong appointment
when
completely.
Russell Martin left Saints, I legitimately thought it was time for him to go, and at the same time felt a bit sorry for the guy.
Yeah,
Genuinely,
of course. I think everyone
genuinely.
did.
And I watched his
To a degree.
interview that he did with Gary Lineker, and I felt more sorry for the guy. And I thought, you know what, maybe he's learned a lesson. And then at the end of the season, there were actually Saints fans that were calling for him to get reappointed. And I don't think that would have been the right move. But that's how much people were like, yeah, Russell, you know. He then went to Rangers. And after seeing what he's done at Rangers, that man has learned a grand total of fuck all.
Yeah, true.
And now I wouldn't want him anywhere near the football club ever again. Because what he's done is he's gone into Rangers and he's gone, I am right. My style is right. It's not my fault that Saints were terrible. It's basically what he's done, because clearly my way is right. And Rangers have got battered. They got knocked out of Europe embarrassingly. And
Well, there you go. They got knocked out of Champions League.
and
yeah.
he's still Europe, and he refused to change. And yes, you're right, Adam. He is laughing all the way to the bank. This is what gets me with managers in general. I don't like the fact that nowadays a default for a club when things aren't going well is flat sack the manager. Cool, bring a different manager in charge of the same group of players. And as we're seeing with Man United and Ruben Amorim, and as we're seeing with Southampton over the course of the last couple of seasons, and as we're seeing with other teams, changing the manager doesn't necessarily solve your problems. It's the same group of players. It's the same group of players. But Russell is so set in his ways, and so I now believe genuinely he's such an ego that I'm not surprised he's sacked.
Because of a family member, Rangers have always been the team in Scotland that I've always followed. So I've kept quite closer to it. It's even closer now that Russell Martin's been announced. And Ian's right, it is football, but he did exactly what you said. He went into Rangers. He's obviously played for Rangers before, and he went, I'm going to do things my way, and he pissed the wrong people off.
Yeah, no, and I flat accept the fact that it's football. And what I'm saying is I just don't like it. You know, I don't like the fact that what we do now, and I was talking about this a little bit yesterday, and I wonder if some of it is a symptom of the fact that we don't have the ability to make player transfers all through the season, the transfer winners exist, because the default now is manager's fault. But what gets me the most is when you decide it's the manager's fault, when you decide it's Russell Martin's fault, or when you decide it's Ange Postecoglou's fault, or when you decide it's Paolo Pizzolano's fault, whoever it might be, what happens to that contract?
They just pay it up.
If I joined a new job, right, and in 39 days they went, "You're shit. This isn't what we thought we were signing." They're going to go, "You failed your probation period. Fuck off," right? I'll go, "Cool. You pay me next 2 years." They go, "No, you're shit. Of course I'm not." So what I don't get in football is if you can categorically state that the manager is dreadful and he is the reason why you're failing and you're going to sack him, why is Russell Martin? Russell Martin, with his Saints contract that he signed a new one at the start of the Premier League season, and now his Rangers contract, he's like, "Cheers, lads."
What you need to do as a football club is you need to put them on rolling contracts, which is what Watford do. Which is why they now have another new manager. They have more managers than I think I do have hot dinners sometimes.
They do, yeah.
And this time, they have gone back to Javi Gracia again. And because they were playing rubbish, apparently, despite the fact they were fairly well lingering, sort of low mid-table, for a point, they're above us. And they went to Sheffield United yesterday, who've only won once all season, and lost.
Yeah. Talking about results yesterday, there was wins for Oxford, Millwall, Hull, Charlton, Coventry again, Sheffield United, as you say, Stoke, Bristol City and West Brom. Saints currently sit in 16th. I think the Skates are one above or one below us?
One above us. They got a point away at Leicester yesterday, but we're not going to talk about that.
One above us.
I think it's just worth to mention, because people have said it, we are. Firstly, by the way, chat, we're on 12 points.
Is that the same as last season?
Yep.
Banging.
But it's worth. No one is really. I mean, Coventry have got a little bit of gap at the top. No one's really running away.
No, well, Coventry's interesting. I do remember at the end of last season, people categorically stating, "Don't want Frank Lampard. Don't want Frank Lampard." No, I'm not saying he would have come here, but look at the job he's doing at Coventry. He's doing a good job.
He did a really good job last year as well, and then bottled it in the playoffs.
He did, yeah, but that might have been an experience thing. Who knows?
But we need to give. There will be a time, and we always said it. And Dad will be sat there watching this now, and he'll say, "I always say that." There is going to be teams as we get on 20 games in, and there'll be a team that sits 17th or 18th or 16th that will go on a run and they'll shoot up the league.
Yeah,
hopefully,
maybe that's us.
That'll be us.
Yeah, we do have 2 games coming up. We've got 2 away games coming up. No, sorry, away. Yeah, it's 2 away games coming up. Away at Bristol City on Tuesday. Actually, a tough game.
Bristol City doing well this year.
Let's hope they play Joe Lumley in goal.
I can't say anything to that. No, they are playing very well this year. Joe Lumley wasn't even on the bench from the weekend, by the way.
No.
Gerd Struber is their manager. They sit 7th.
How did you say that?
Struber.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not foreign. I can't say it. I have watched them a lot this season. Obviously, they got battered in the Championship, didn't they? Playoffs, semi-finals last year.
Yeah.
They look strong. They're strong at Bristol City. We don't have a very good record at Ashton Gate. I don't think we've won there in my lifetime.
If we beat them, however, we all need to go on Twitter and give Alfie House neat shit.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Like, literally everyone get on the
full bants for Alfie.
Full bants.
Like respectful bants, but full bants for Alfie.
Yeah. As well as when he does well on the Bake Off, because it looks like he's about to win it. It's going to be. I think it's the toughest of the 2 games that we've got next week, and it's one of the games that I looked at this season and I thought that's one that I just don't think we're going to do very well in.
Yeah, this is where yesterday's result could cause us a problem, because I think if you get a result yesterday and you win, you go into Bristol City with a bit more confidence. My concern from yesterday is you go into Bristol City still being afraid of losing.
Bristol City are fantastic on the transition, so I think they'll set up against us. They'll throw. I've just seen that comment. They'll throw 10 men behind the ball, and they'll try and hit us on the break, and they'll do exactly what Swansea did second half last year. And do you know what? We could go there and do well. I would be ecstatic with a point.
I would take a point, despite the fact that Saints Twitter will go into meltdown yet again. But then I also think that we then need to go away to Blackburn on Saturday and get a win.
Blackburn's another interesting one because they sit 22nd at the moment. Not had a very good start, and they
so I think we need to go there and get a win.
Yeah, they put a lot of money in appointing Valerian Ismail, who for people who would know was obviously at West Brom beforehand. They've got some decent players in the squad. You know, they just Blackburn are one of those teams. We remember them winning the Premier League, being in the Premier League for a long time when they had pure Barclaysmen like Morton Gantz, Pedersen, and Brett Emerton and all that sort of lot. And they were always a team that were flying around and doing well, and they just
They had Damien Duff, didn't they? And
Damien Duff,
David
and
Dunn.
Matt Jansen, David Dunn, all those players. 2 guy,
no, only one.
just the one.
I would. This is completely off topic. My Facebook Reels was throwing me old classics from Soccer AM, and I was like, I wonder if we
She
can.
sent me one of them.
I was wondering if we can convert our whole studio into a Soccer AM set and just bring that back.
Who's going to do the catwalk?
We'll figure it out. I reckon we can fit it in here. We can fit the set in here, and we've got a car park for the football part. We could do it. I can't because it would trash my main business, but we could do it. We could bring
We
Soccer
just use
AM
this
back.
part of the warehouse, and your main business is over there. It's fine.
We could bring Soccer AM back. I reckon we could do it.
We'll do it. All right, I'm up for that.
I missed that show.
I mean, we'd need a lot more members and a lot more super chats to be able to do that.
Currently, if I did that, that would be me broke. But talking about support, you guys have been amazing. Thank you so much for the super chats. We'll jump into those right now before we say goodbye. It's been a slightly longer show, but obviously we've been away for a couple of weeks. So
His fault.
thank you, Matt, for the $2. He says line up for Tuesday's trip to Bristol. I think that if it was me, I would probably largely leave it unchanged. Question mark over Gillette because of his fitness. Question mark over Wellington because of his fitness. Because
I wouldn't be surprised if we see Fraser. I think he'll go Fraser and Manning as the wing backs. I don't think he'll start.
Otherwise, I would suggest probably starting the same side.
I would, yeah.
Yeah, if I'm honest with you. I know it's not a long answer, but maybe the wing backs will swap out because of fitness, because Wellington's obviously just come back from injury, and we saw Gillette go down on Saturday. Perhaps we would.
Actually, no, sorry. I'll just quickly jump in there. He'll play Fellows, won't he, instead of Gillette? Sorry.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
So there you go. Thank you for the $2, and you're a legend. Thank you, Garsty, for the $2. Saints ain't going down. Give Will the season. And I would, but I was also the person who originally was saying we should probably, at the point in which we sacked Russell, I was like, well, we might as well just give it in the season at that point, because to sack him, bring in Uric, sack him, that cost us a lot more than just keep him Martin for the season would have done.
Look, if it's going terribly, and I mean, if we don't win a game between now and January, and the board make a decision because they want to bring someone else in and give him a transfer when it'll work, you can potentially understand that. But it's just going to achieve nothing right now. Because he's getting... If the players were playing terrible yesterday and the performances weren't getting better, and you could see they weren't playing for him, you probably, like the Rangers players, you can go, yeah, fine, sack him, but... Well, I did not see players yesterday that were not playing for the manager.
Alan said we're getting better each game. We'll get there. I agree. That's the camp I'm in at the moment. I mean, I put in a group chat yesterday, after yesterday's game, after getting home and thinking about it. I'm encouraged for the most part. And I'm pro Will Still currently, personally.
Yeah. No, I am too, 100%.
Dotsy, thank you for the $5. Do you think we may see Flynn, Taylor Howard-Bellis and possibly Cam Archer looking for a move in January? Right. Flynn, yes.
Yes.
I think we'll see him look for a move. Taylor, unsure. If he gets a good run in the side now, because I think he actually played quite well yesterday. If he gets a good run in the side now and he's playing well, and we look like we're climbing and challenging perhaps for playoff stroke promotion, Taylor I'm unsure about. Cam, I mean, where's he going to go? Look, maybe to another championship side, but he sits in the... Thinking about Ross Stewart and his contract at the end of the season, he sits in the same camp for me. Who the fuck wants to buy him?
You also have to be very cautious for the fact that business is a lot harder to do in January.
It is.
And I wouldn't be surprised if this is the position that we go into, that if you see a Flynn down, move out, that's when the conversation about someone like James Ward-Prowse might pop up. But then also, we've got Moses Sesse, who's been doing brilliantly this year for the under-23s.
But I think Cam. So, do we want to? Who wants to buy him? Is the first question. Unless he's playing well. So here's the thing, right? If he's playing well, scoring goals, why would he want to go? I would suggest he probably doesn't. But then he's an attractive prospect to another team because he's scoring goals, and strikers are a premium, right? At the moment, if he's getting mucked about, if he scores a couple of goals in a couple of games, gets dropped because Stewart's fit again, and then comes back in and scores a couple of goals in a couple of games and then gets dropped again, then I wouldn't necessarily blame him for asking to go, because he's like, come on, I'm scoring goals, I'm doing literally my job, and you're dropping me. But if he's not performing, who wants him? Interesting question. Talking about this as well, what's in the famous words of Peter Griffin, what's really starting to grind my gears at the moment, what's really starting to wind me up on social media the most is, we said we should have bought a striker. Right? I don't think anybody at the football club wouldn't agree that we would like to have bought a prolific goal scorer in the summer. I don't think anybody would disagree with that, right?
But we did buy a striker, and okay, he's not been brilliant, But after he scored a goal against Espanyol, everyone was going, he looks great.
But what I'm saying is, every fucking club in the world at the moment wants to buy a striker. And if you watch that Liverpool game today, some teams spent 150 million quid on a striker who looks like a donkey. Right? Now, not to say Isak isn't a good striker. He had an incredible season last season. Of course he did. But at the moment, he looks out of his depth. And that was 115 million quid with a 350 grand a week contract.
I still think, just to answer Dotsky's question, I still think that Cameron Archer especially will be looking for a move away. And if the football club are going to be serious and potentially mount any sort of promotion charge, we know we're going to have to go forward in. One of them's going to have to leave.
But right, hear me out. Stewart's contract's up at the end of the season. He's now out for a good few months, we've been told, because of his injury.
Yeah.
If Cam gets a regular run of games up front for Saints and is scoring goals, at that point, I don't think he asks to step away. He's getting regular first-team football, he's scoring goals, and we're climbing the table, potentially. I don't think he does ask to go away. And I think at that point, there's a serious conversation to be had where we keep Cam playing and we let Ross go in the summer because he's too injury-prone. That frees up a spot for another striker to come in. But
it all depends. We need to get to the point. We need to get to the point where one of our strikers starts scoring goal consistently.
Well, of course, absolutely.
That'd be nice.
Nick, thank you for the $5. Italy used to have a rule that you couldn't manage more than one Serie A club per season. Scrapped in 2010. But I liked it. Isn't there a rule about how many teams a player can play for in a season?
You're not allowed to play for more than 3 teams in a season.
I like it. But then saying that, Nick, for me the biggest problem isn't even the number of teams you can manage in a season. It's the fact that somehow managers in football, in English football at least, continue to fail up. I use this phrase a lot. And what I mean is go to a team, perform. Look at Russell Martin and Ivan Juric. Perform dreadfully for that club, get yourself the sack because of how you've performed, and then go and get a better job on better money with things like Champions League football. I would say that for me, and I know you argue me because of the trophy, Ange was an abject failure at Tottenham last season, and when he got sacked, I was like, I'm not surprised. And then he got a job at Forest, and I'm like, how has he walked into another Premier League job? Russell Martin was widely regarded by a lot of Saints fans as being an egotist and the reason why we were so bad in the Premier League. And he got a job at Rangers in Champions League football. We then brought in Ivan Juric, who was utterly woeful, and he went and got a job with Champions League football. That's the problem. I don't know if it's the number of clubs a manager can manage. It's the whole way it works. It's the fact that you can do a shit job, work for a month and get paid off for your 2-year contract and then go and get another one.
But we had this discussion yesterday, and guys, I know we're getting on, so if you have a feeling on this, please put it in the comments afterwards and I'll get back to you. And if you're watching back on demand, whack it in the comments below. It's that you've got this difference, and we've already described it with Mariankos at Nottingham Forest, between owners that want to play pretty football and owners that want to play winning football. And there's only so many teams in this country that can play pretty football that wins. And to be honest, it's 1 or 2. Sometimes United didn't go to Liverpool today and play superbly. They put their flipping arses up and went, we're going to fight for it.
There's arguably two things that makes people happy, right? Attractive, sexy football is commercially good for the club.
Yes.
It will attract fans that aren't necessarily locals because you're playing sexy, attractive football. Getting results is what keeps the home fan base happy predominantly because their club's doing well. If you end up in a situation where you can whip together a recipe that puts both those things together and you can play sexy, attractive football and get out results, that's when you become a big club. That's when you become a Man City or a Liverpool or an Arsenal. Mm-hmm. It is. We have to accept, I think, that for the most part, Saints specifically aren't always going to be able to play sexy, attractive football and get results. It's not always going to happen. And I think that a lot of clubs, I think sometimes people like your Nottingham Forests need to, and it sounds like an awful thing to say, at this point in their life, need to remember their place. You don't, overnight, challenge your Man Cities and your Arsenals and your Liverpools. You just don't. That takes a lot of time to get to that level. And I think we played some of the best. I think we had one of the best games we had yesterday, and I do think we played some of the best football. You know what we didn't do? We didn't grind out a win. Would you have taken an uglier performance yesterday if we'd have got 3 points and got a win?
Yeah,
100% you would. Of course you would. And I think that people like marinara sauce, whatever his name is at Nottingham Forest, right? I think he needs to realise that the Forest fans are like, couldn't give a shit about Ange's attractive football. What we did under Nuno was we won games of football.
Our opponents on Saturday had a perfect example. They had Sam Allardyce in charge. They were 5th in the Premier League, and they went, "Oh, it's really boring. We're going to sack them and bring someone else in." Now look where they are.
Right. You need results, and you know, results mean prizes in this league. Because how would you bring in players to play the more attractive football? Money. How do you earn that money? Higher league table finishes. So I would have taken an uglier, horrible, rough game of football yesterday if we'd have scored 2 goals and won 3 points. And I think that's what people need to realise. I think people like Forest need to realise it. Even people like Tottenham right now. I know they've got a super impressive stadium. They need to realise, grind the result out.
Well, they lost today, so.
Well, quite, right? Because it's not always the manager that does the, you know. Anyway, finally, before we say goodbye, thank you, Jamie, for becoming a member of our academy. The membership tiers are just linked to, isn't it like academy first team reserves or academy reserves first
academy
team?
reserve first team, and it's going to get bigger in the future as we build. But Jamie, if you're not, get yourself into the Discord. Don't forget to link your Discord and YouTube account, and you can get into the members things. You can vote on the members poll on Tuesday after we've battered Bristol City 5-0.
Yeah, I'm positive. I'm net positive at the moment, to be honest with you. I can agree with that. Look at Everton a few years ago, getting rid of Big Sam because of his style of football, and then look how managers they had, and now they're back with Moyes till they get bored. Yeah, right. And this is the thing, right? I've never understood this. I know we should finish. I'm sorry, but I've never understood this. We're getting results. We're doing okay. We're holding our own. We're a solid Premier League side. Blah 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 blah. But you know what? What we're not doing is we're not playing like Real Madrid or Barcelona.
We're especially the perfect example, right? We've gone from a team that in the we got relegated because we were easy to beat. We then got to the Championship, and I know we got promoted, but we finished 4th in a 3-horse race, and we're lucky to go up through the playoffs to a degree. Yeah. Conceded goals for fun. Then finished the same, conceded goals for even more fun last year. And now suddenly, although there have been some silly goals conceded, we're now suddenly quite hard to beat.
Can you answer me a question? I know you want to go home and go to bed as well.
No, I'm fine.
Can you answer me a question? What's your thoughts on Sports Republic?
I think this season is this season or next season and a half is the biggest impact for them. I think they obviously want to expand. There's been rumours that they've had bids rejected for clubs in.
Garcy says, Premiership sounds intriguing to me, Liam. Of course it does. You're Welsh.
They've had bids rejected for clubs in Bulgaria. I think they want to take on an Irish club as well, because obviously it's that multi-sport, multi-club model.
Yeah.
I think we sat here after the transfer deadline day and we said window is an 8 or 9 out of 10. We thought Damien Downs looked good at the time. We're not saying he won't become good. We thought we had a decent equipment. I think we're one, and I know this is a cliche and a lot of people are going to say it, we're one decent goal scorer away from really kicking on. But I also think that there's so much work that has had to be done. And we've seen it from the start of the season. We got lucky against Wrexham, and then there's just been steady progress. Now, we might make a step back on Tuesday against Bristol. We might go to Bristol City and lose. Would I take 2 draws or a loss and a win? Obviously, I prefer the loss and the win because it's more points. But everyone needs to understand, and for all those Saints, there's a lot of people that call him for his head now that have said that were excited when he first came in. People had to understand that he was starting to learn. He had to learn the league when he came in. Sports Republic have had to learn from their own mistakes. They have made some massive mistakes, and people are always going to look at the board. At the moment, in terms of where we are, just this season as an isolation, the board have done, in my opinion, almost everything right.
I agree.
And it's now up for the players. Now, if we go into January and we're still sort of flirting mid-table and we're still getting these games, let's be honest, it's not going to change overnight. Cameron Archer isn't going to become a worldie on Tuesday. Damien Downs might come off the bench on Tuesday. It's one of the arse and go in and go on a run. But then they need to action it. And I see all these rumours. Go and sign Michael Anconio on a free. Go and sign this person on a free. Go and sign this person on a free. It's not as simple as that.
No, everyone thinks they're playing FIFA, don't they?
It's not as simple as doing that because there's money involved. Do they want to come to us? What's their expectations going to be? If Ross Stewart comes back in January and then suddenly one of them's not going to be able to play, there's so much. What is he on about? Old man sneakers.
But you're sneakers. But you're right. No. You're right with what you say. I think that Sports Republic have done some damage to the club, but I also think they have learned And I think that what they've done over the course of the last nearly 12 months has shown that they've learned. And I think they're applying that learning and they're making positive changes.
I don't think it's intentional damage. I don't think they're doing it
No.
to take money out the club.
God, why would they? They need to make money.
So I think that whilst I understand it, you look at these situations going on where you've got people. I mean, Celtic fans are protesting against the board, and Rangers fans were doing it, and Tottenham fans were doing it, and then Daniel Levy left, and now Daniel Levy's left, and their form's dropped. We've said it before. It's to be careful what you wish for part with Sports Republic, and I think that they've done so much good work. I personally think if we're going to go about it right, we need to get the squad in this year, settle them, get them all used to each other, make a few shrewd additions in the summer, and then go for it next year. Yeah. But there are Saints fans out there, and there are football fans of every club that will not be satisfied if we're not battering teams.
Well, I only ask you the question because I've seen on the Twitterverse, I've already seen those Sport Republic out banners coming back.
Right? Yeah, I've seen them.
And I'm like, actually, after the Juric fiasco, with bringing Will in, so I think Damien Downs has ability. That finish that he scored in pre-season was very impressive. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
He's got ability. He has, right?
His confidence is
without doubt. His confidence is in the toilet. And say what's worse is Saints fans haven't helped that, and that's why he's deleted his social media. Shame on you. So he's got ability. That aside, fellows, Azaz is a question mark, but he shows flashes. Cienza, Jalert, Royslev. It's a solid window. It's a solid window. And people said, I saw this on online today. I still think it's an 8, 9 out of 10 window. Legitimately still think it is. Comparatively what we've had over the last couple of years. It's still one of the best we've had.
But there are still fans out there that will see Will Smallbone assisting goals for Middlesbrough, Millwall and Ireland, and watching Ben Barrett and Diaz smacking a worldie from 30 yards and going,
I've seen people kicking off about Don Ballard scoring goals in the league below. What does that mean?
Yeah, I've always been a fan of Don Ballard.
I know you have, but multiple managers didn't give him a first-team chance.
But
that's a reason.
He is also on a buy. There is also a buyback clause in his contract, so
But again, scoring goals in League One doesn't necessarily mean you can do it in the Championship, and doing it in the Championship, as we've seen, doesn't mean you can do it in the Premier League.
Exactly.
So, anyway. Right, you guys are amazing. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for the 70 people that have stayed right till the end for the extra half an hour. I knew it'd be a little bit longer because we did talk a little bit at the start about the last two games. You've been amazing. Score prediction, Bristol City.
1-1.
I'll take 1-1. I was going to go 1-1. Score prediction, Blackburn Rovers.
I might go.
I'm going 0-2.
I was about to say that. I'm going to change it. It's not going to be like you. 3-1.
What's the Saints?
Yeah,
cool. Yeah. Okay. Let us know in the comment section after the show what your score predictions are for both Bristol City and Blackburn Rovers, and we'll have a look next week if any of you got it right. I do think I'll take a draw at Bristol City because it is a tough place to go to.
We need 4 points this week.
And I would take a win at Blackburn. I think that's the way I would like it to happen. Of course, I want both wins. I'm just trying to be realistic, and I won't predict we lose, right? Hopefully, if you guys are going away to those two games, you have a great time. I'm not going to either. I'm working on Tuesday, and I can go to Blackburn on Saturday, but I don't fancy the trip. I'm a bit shattered right now, and I'm probably going to sit on my arse in my pants on Saturday.
He needs to man up.
I might
tell him to man up, chat.
I might go down to see our parents, that sort of thing.
Well, Dad ain't going either, so yeah, you might.
Well, there you go. So but we will be back next week at 8 p.m. with another show where we review both games, because I'll at least watch both of the games even if I'm not there. So come and check out that show at 8 o'clock next Sunday. Like I said to you already, if you haven't become a member already, you're a grey name in chat, think about becoming a member. It supports us because we run this at a loss. You do get in Discord. We'll be running another members only competition soon that will probably be drawing around Christmas time, so you guys can win something. I'm yet to decide what that is. I might give away Ash's ticket or something. Anyway, I think that's everything. Is that everything? Is there anything you want to add before we disappear?
Just hit the like button, guys. There's 67 people live, 25 likes. Please make sure you hit that.
Liking is free. Now
it helps.
The rally call, the famous rally call.
It's not going to be a rally call tonight, is there? I'm not going to do a rally call. It's just going to be a very mellow sort of.
It's going to be a beautiful up the Saints before I press the end screen button, isn't it? Isn't it beautiful?
Well, I'm not dancing tonight, so yeah, it's fine.
Final words before we disappear, Ash?
Up the Saints.
Up the Saints. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.